We're actually just going to kind of go through our small group leadership training today because I know two things are happening. Number one, we're here in a new area. We're having new people visit Faith Family Church, and we always talk about small groups. Number two, there's some people I know that have it in their hearts, kind of a leading to start a small group, but they're not sure of how it's done or what that'll look like. It could be a little bit scary. So that's what we're going to do, is go through our small groups to let you know what it's about. So those of you especially who are thinking of possibly starting one will know how it isn't scary. And it actually can be one of the most fulfilling steps you take because it'll help you in many, many different areas of life as you develop leadership skills, simply leading a small group, plus the fulfillment of seeing other people's lives changed. And you're the one pastoring them, because that's our model here at Faith Family Church. I kind of grew up in the old way where, the pastor was a super spiritual person and you went to him if you had prayer needs or counseling needs. But that doesn't work really well with a growing church because pastors can only reach so many people. What works a whole lot better is the example we see in the Bible where Jesus imparted his abilities and knowledge to his disciples, and they went out and reached other people, training them to reach other people, and so on and so on. I'm sure you understand that. So since we launched our small groups in 2018, we've had over 40 different small group leaders that have started small groups or led in small groups. And that's a pretty good number of people, considering the value of leading in a small group. So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to have some fun. In your seats, you will find a small group leadership guide. And we would just welcome you to pick one of those up, write your name on the top of it, and keep it. It's free. It's for you. And should you ever be so inclined to lead a small group, this will give you some knowledge on how we do it, kind of what's involved in the process, and then give you a confidence to know you could take a step and follow God's plan for you to step out and lead a small group. And those of you who are watching online, if you just scroll down, you'll see an area where you can click and download an online small group leadership guide in either English or Cantonese. So in the second service, we'll have the Cantonese leadership guides available. If you'd like one of those, you could go back to our Next Steps table, and they would be glad to get you one of those. So with that, you should have a pen with that. You can actually open your booklet to page 2, and we'll just start going through here. There's a lot of fill in the blanks, which just kind of help you interact, and we're not going to grade you on this. Don't worry. And Jesus isn't wanting to see your test score to know whether you qualify. No, this is just going to be fun, so that it'll just open up some minds to some people to take some steps that I know God is wanting you to take. So let's start on page 2, and the first fill in the blank is, we believe life change happens in the context of relationships. Relationships are vital, and small groups are the backbone to Faith Family Church. So let's talk about the why. Small groups have one simple purpose, and that's to bring people together, because this is where God can do his best work. Other people and the Holy Spirit will be the most effective forces that cause change in us and others around us. So in Ecclesiastes 4:9, it says, 2 are better than 1, because we were created to be in fellowship and communication with other people. That's why this pandemic was really tough, because it separated and isolated us, and that was not God's plan for humanity. Humanity is that we get together and help one another and interact, because that's where joy and fulfillment in life are at. So the next one, at Faith Family Church, we believe our church must grow larger and smaller at the same time. So you can go ahead and write those in if you would like. And as good as my preaching is, it's just not enough to get everybody to keep coming back. But relationships in small groups are. Because if you connect relationally to people, you will have the motivation to come back, because you'll have new friends, new connections. And one of the things, I'm just telling you, if you join a small group or if you start a small group, you're going to meet people that can be some of the best friends that you have that you don't even know yet, because you haven't joined that group or started that group that God's putting on your heart. I'm just telling you the truth. You'll have some of the best friends that you would ever know, and they're waiting out there for some of you to take that step and start that small group. So some of the best ministry that I can give you takes place between Sundays, which is in the small groups where you connect with one another. And we can even see this model in the old biblical church in Acts chapter 5 and verse 42. It says, day after day in the temple courts and from house to house, they never stopped preaching and proclaiming the good news that Jesus is the Messiah. And so, what do small groups have to offer on page 3? Number 1, they are a place to connect. And so make small groups a part of your culture. Again, this is a place where there are divine appointments that you will have with other people. One of my divine appointments is I met my wife in a small group in the church that I used to attend, well, let's just say a long time ago in a city far, far away. And that was worth finding and attending that small group for more than any other reason that I can think of. So it will also help you to take next steps in your spiritual growth. A small group will do that better than anything else. In 1 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse 22, it says, yes, whatever a person is like, I try to find common ground with them so that he will let me tell him about Christ and let Christ save him. So we were not created to do life alone. Together is where fun and laughter and fulfillment happen. And that'll be no other place you'll see that than in a small group. And this is also the very thing the devil tries to do, is get you alone so that he can beat you up, because that's how he can most effectively do that. When he gets you isolated, there's nobody encouraging you, or even in negative small groups, people that aren't helping you go the right way in life. And I've belonged to a few of those before I started serving Jesus. They will take you down that wrong track, and you'll end up in a place that you don't want to be. So number 2, small group is a place to protect, is the right-in word. And in 1 John 3:16, it says, we know what real love is because Jesus gave up his life for us. So we also ought to give up our lives for our brothers and sisters. And that's just something, that's a mark of maturity. You who are parents understand that, because when you have children, guess what? You die. You die to that old life you used to have where you just ran around and frolicked and had fun with your friends. All of a sudden, you have this little baby that if you don't feed it, it will die. If you don't do a lot of things, it won't work out. So you suddenly know you have to change your life. It's because of that love you have for that child. Well, that's the same love that Jesus had for us and died on the cross to take our sin away. So that is one of the ways. In reciprocation, it's a mark of spiritual growth. And it's not something we can do to pay Jesus back. It's just a mark of love that reaching other people then brings you also fulfillment, because when you show love, you also receive love and fulfillment. So parents, more than anybody, you know what I'm talking about there. And so especially in a world today, we need these safe places, because there's so many negative things out there. It was one thing when I was growing up, we had negative friends, or I had negative friends I was hanging around. But today, there is an online world. You don't even have to leave your house, and you can get around bad friends, bad influences that'll take you to a bad place that you don't want to be. Y'all know what I'm talking about there. All the more we need to be connected with positive people, and we even have, small groups that meet online or have online connections, so that we've got a service here that is being broadcast online. So if you can't attend this service, you can still watch it online, either live or later on in the week. So those are all positives, but we need to come back to the person-to-person contacts, and that is one of the things that completely changed my life around because of the people I was hanging around. When I switched from the old group of negative people and started connecting with positive people, again, they weren't perfect, but they helped me to learn so many things, especially in those initial first steps as I was now in a new relationship, walking with God and learning, so much about Him and how to do things on a better level. So my small group was the biggest help in that. I talked a little bit about that last week. Okay, number 3, a small group is a place to grow. You can fill that one in also, Proverbs 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And that's why I wore my iron sharpens iron shirt, because this is a shirt I wear in my small group that when we lift a lot of iron, we're out there working together, working out. I just love this shirt. I mean, it looks so awesome. And I just love that small group because we work out together and just encourage one another, get healthy together, get strong together, get good looking together. And if any of you want to join such a group, we've got one of those. And then we're kind of rebooting our small groups. We're technically starting them this weekend, but we're kind of taking our time because we're going to get some feedback from you and give you some opportunities if you want to start one, because we're kind of in a new location. And rather than rushing this without, let's just do this, let's take our time and get this right, because things are a little bit different here. So anyways, as iron sharpens an iron, so one person sharpens another. In small groups, we want everybody to take one step spiritually, mentally, and physically during every small group session. And it's not hard to do that, especially if you're intentional in the small groups. So here's what a small group looks like. And some people kind of think, oh, no, I have to think of something really spiritual, so that people want to come and learn about God. Well, actually, it's very simple. Take what you're already doing and add ministry to that. For example, my weightlifting group. I had started weightlifting. I just knew I needed to get in better shape. And so I hang around a couple of guys, and we started working out. And I really enjoyed that. And then all of a sudden, we launched our next small group semester. And I thought, you know what? I think we should just make this into a small group. And it was very easy to do because we were already doing it, meeting and working out together. So I didn't have to try and create some big, gigantic, thing. It was just very simple to add the elements to that, and we'll show you how. On page 4, it says we use a free market approach to small groups. And then it says free market leaders form their group around their gifts and interests. So that's the first question you ask. What types of gifts and interests do I have? What things am I already doing? Like if you're a mother and you've got some kids and you meet together with a few other kids and mothers so that they can all play together and talk together, you've got the makings of a small group right there. Very simple. And we've actually got one of those groups here in the church. And we even say this, you're only limited by your imagination. If there's some things you want to do, like if you have one of those big fluffy dogs and you really like those, and there's some other people that have their big fluffy dogs and they like to go down and get their little dog shampoo, like if you've seen the place just down over the balcony here, there might be some other people you can get together with that and have a connecting small group from something like that. So again, your imagination's your only limitation. On page 5, groups meet weekly during each semester. Every semester we start and stop the groups because we don't want to wear you out. So give you a break, and you might even want to change groups. Like if you're attending one group, you can then at the next semester attend another group that may be of your interest. And they're made up of 4 components. Again, on page 5, number 1 is casual fellowship. Number 2 is activity or discussion. Number 3 is prayer. And number 4 is a spiritual component. And this is number 1, the casual fellowship. In my group, we have a great time just talking and, of course, lifting the weights together. And, we're not at work or we're not at school. We don't, unless that's what you're into, is you could study a book of the Bible or something, and that can be a really fun time. But otherwise, it's just how you connect with people and have fun doing it. And so you don't want to make it into some, big, heavy spiritual thing. And then the activity or discussion, we've already talked about that, whatever your interest is. It can be as anything you can imagine. But then you add prayer to it. And this is what we do in my group. We'll lift our weights, and then I'll kind of find a cool 10-minute video about some, sports athletes or Christian athletes, that compete on a really high level, and then their workout routines that they go through, which are pretty intense in some of these sports today that people will go through, and we'll watch that out. It's kind of fun, and you don't have to be a Christian or anything. They're just cool watching what some of these guys do, especially if you're a weightlifter. And then we'll bring it to another spot where we kind of say it's the prayer aspect, but sometimes I'll bring it up like this. Instead of saying, hey, does anybody have any prayer requests? Oh, we're ready to write them down, your prayer requests. And sometimes these people have never even been to a church before. And they don't know all the Christian lingo, about prayer requests. What does that exactly mean? Is this, well, anyway, so what we'll do is very simply just say, I'll say to the group, hey, have any of you guys been going through a challenge, in this last week? Or is there something you're trying to work through that's been a little bit difficult and you're maybe even struggling with it? Whoa, we'll get some people talking. Like all of a sudden someone will say, well, yeah, I've been having a hard time, I'm looking for a new job, and I'm trying to find one, but it's been a little bit challenging because there's some problems at my workplace, and so, yeah, that's, what my challenge was. And then we say, hey, maybe encourage them, well, hey, definitely stay with it, keep looking, there's other jobs out there, and you know what? And here's how you bring the prayer in. Could we pray for that situation that you're going through? I mean, even atheists will probably say, yeah, sure, why not? What does that hurt? And then if you all pray, it gives you the spiritual option that, they could have a little God sense, that, wow, there's God's in this place, in this little prayer link here. And if God then does something that's noticeable, they'll go and say, whoa, this is interesting. I want to know more about this prayer, God stuff, and they could get connected with God or visit Faith Family Church. And so that's kind of the strategy behind it. And so then we also would share in my group a little short devotional. And if you've been around here long, you've heard of the YouVersion Bible and the app. And on that app, there's thousands of different devotionals on every subject you can imagine. We just kind of click in sports, and all kinds of these devotionals will come up real short, a couple of scriptures, a little story. We read that together, and we're done. Go on from there. So it's very simple. It's not anything heavy or spiritual. You don't need to graduate from a Bible school in order to lead a small group. Any of you could do that, and we'll help you to do that because we have a number of different helps. Page 6, the primary role of a small group leader is to help the group members move one step in their walk with God, which is the most important part, is we just want to just imagine that. If everybody in a small group takes one step in their relationship with God, that's a big deal because that's a lot of people moving forward in their relationship with God. And describes in the book, there's different types of steps they can take. And then one more section here, how to be a successful small group leader. Just go over that real quick. Number 1, pray daily for the members of your small group on page 7. And once again, who's praying for you? I asked that question last week. Think about it. If there's nobody praying for you, you've got a bigger challenge in life. But if there's people praying for you, which is what happens when you join a small group, you've got a prayer leader, a small group leader praying for you. Or you can be someone praying for others in your small group, which is going to make a difference and influence their lives. As a group leader, consider partnering with a co-leader. You can write that in to help share the responsibility of caring and leading for your group, and that's a marvelous way to learn how to become a small group leader if you're still kind of a little bit nervous. Get into a group or get with somebody and help them co-lead. Number 3, connect with group members outside weekly meetings through phone, email, text, all the different ways you can do that, and encourage them to connect with each other as well. These are what makes simple, good, small group leaders. Notice we haven't mentioned having a PhD doctoral degree in theology. That is not on this list because you don't need that. Number 4, how about this one? Have fun through laughter and by creating an enjoyable environment. Next page, page 8, respect people's time by beginning and ending at the right time. Number 6, invite group members to attend church services and other events with you. This is another way to help what we call unchurched people, if there's some in your group, to take their next steps, which may be just simply visiting a Sunday church service so they can have a God experience in the environment that we can give them here. And number 7, rally the group around a member going through a crisis. And this is an important one because when people go through challenges, when they have people around them praying for them and encouraging them, they can get through most of the problems. And like I mentioned, I think also last week, a pastor was telling me once that in all his years of pastoring and counseling, 90% of the times that he was counseling, all the people needed was encouragement. And every single one of you would qualify for being able to do that. You just have a few scriptures, some positive words, and you can help a person to stick it out and see it through because that's what they need. Remember, you do not have to fix the people. You need to point them to the one, Jesus, who can fix them. That's what we do, most importantly. Then on page 8, prayer is a foundation of our church, and it's important for your small group. And so we list a number of ways of how you can pray for people, especially the one where you ask people if they're going through any challenges and then say, hey, could I pray for you concerning that? Most people will give you a big yes, please do. So you can have confidence as a small group leader. The leader is the one who often benefits the most in the group because you learn skills that you'll use in your workplace or in your school. You'll learn better communication skills, which are one of the most important things in life you can learn. Number one in marriage, it's the most important skill is communication. If you're in business in any type of aspect, you will have to communicate with other people. And a small group leader will help you to do all of those better. They'll improve your leadership skills, which will allow you to literally excel above the coworkers around you. So you get promotions because you just have these skills that your bosses want to promote you in, or you'll actually be able to help coworkers around you to learn and grow because they may not know about leadership skills, but you do and can help them. So Philippians 4:13 says, for I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. If you're kind of feeling like, well, I don't know if I can do this, the Bible says, yes, you can. And 2 Timothy 1:7 says, for God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but a spirit of power, love, and self-discipline. So here it goes on to say in our book here, 3 Lies the Devil Likes to Tell People, on page 9, when you feel like you don't have the time, remember, God has created you for this. This is a part of what he's given and gifted you to do, is to lead and help other people. And his timing is perfect. In Ecclesiastes 11:4, it says, if you wait for perfect conditions, you'll never get anything done. And I think you know that already. Number 2, when you feel unqualified, remember, God has equipped you. He's given you the gifts. He'll give you the encouragement. And we at Faith Family Church here will also help you. In 2 Corinthians chapter 3, starting verse 5, it says, it is not that we think we are qualified to do anything on our own. Our qualification comes from God. He has enabled us to be ministers of his. There's a good one right there. You are his qualified ministers. Number 3, when you feel like your past disqualifies you, remember, God uses imperfect people. There's a lot of people that really failed bad, like one of the most famous people in the Bible, King David. Well, he just happened to also get somebody murdered, had an immoral affair, and did a lot of other bad things. But still, because he sought after God with all his heart, it worked out pretty good, and he accomplished a lot of really great things. So some of you may be feeling like, well, yeah, I used to be a gambling addict, and I'm just barely got out of that, and God's putting my life back together. Well, yeah, if you made it through, you could encourage some other people that might be about to go through that same situation or in that same situation, and God can use you to help them. So never think that you're unqualified for any of that. So, moving down. Another one on page 10, there's a good little thing here. If you feel like you don't know how to help someone in your group, they have a little simple thing in here called ESPN, which is just remember this. You encourage, you share a scripture, you pray, and then help them to take a next step. That simple little process right there can help anybody to take a next step in their own personal growth with God. So now also in your leadership support, this is where Faith Family Church is here to help you. You will be given a coach. that from Faith Family Church, that as you're a small group leader, they'll be there to help you, encourage you, or whatever challenge you might be dealing with in your group, they'll help you to know how to get through that or grow through that or help you solve any problems you may have. Your coach's number one priority is to pray for you daily. So once again, we've got a lot of prayer going on there. And page 12, there's a list of things to accomplish before starting as a small group leader, and then how to start your small group. Very simply, ask God for direction about what group to lead and who to invite. And once you describe your topic or activity, choose a time and a place to meet, and then register your group on our online directory, which we can explain more to you about at our next steps table, and then invite the people you know or the people around you that are in the context that you have in life, or especially people at Faith Family Church. If you see some new people come in and you kind of see them, looking around like, they're not quite used to this kind of a church because they haven't seen this before, they're great people to get to know, invite to a group, and if they say yes, you could be very helpful in helping them take their steps in growth and getting connected to a church, which will change the course of their lives, as someone did for me once. Okay, now let's do something else that will help us to launch our small groups. Is on your chair, you should also have seen a piece of paper called a small group interest form. And if everybody would help us out, don't worry, this isn't a trick. We're not going to get you to sign something at the bottom at the end, and then you'll be legally obligated to start a small group. No, this is just an interest thing. We want to see what people are interested here at the promenade and around the area. What type of groups would you be interested in involved in? If you're tech savvy, we've got a QR code, and you can actually get this little thing on your phone. And if you're watching online, you can also scroll down. There will be a link to click to an online form that you can fill out. Now, here's what the form states. You can see the small group interest form. If you'd give us your name and then an email address to communicate with you would help us. If we see there's a bunch of people that have the same interests you have, we could let you know, and you might be able to form a group or start a group based on something like that, and then also where you live. Now, we don't need your home address, but, if you, like the nearest MTR station you're at, just so we can find out if there's a bunch of people by the TKO MTR station that all like, running. Well, here's the promenade is a great place to, do some running, and you might have a perfect small group right there. So fill those out, and then the next part is what types of small groups would you be interested in? We've got a big, long list there. Photography, shopping, swimming, biking, fitness and weightlifting, sports, pets and animals for all of you animal lovers. That could be a fun one. Some spiritual ones, prayer, parenting, marriage. I know we've got some of those groups running. Our youth outreach is another group we have, and mothers' prayer. I know we've got some mothers groups, and I've had some study groups and so on. Any of those that you might like, just kind of check next to those, and it'll just give us an idea. If there's a bunch of people who are interested in a certain type of thing, we could get some small groups connected where you could connect to other people with like interests and grow together with them. And then one last one there, there's a list any others that are not listed on that list. So if you're into underwater yoga or something like that, hey, write that in there. And if there's anybody else into that, hey, we could get a underwater yoga group going and see who we can reach and help through that. Yeah. So, and then one more thing. When could you attend a small group? And then there's a list of all the different days and times, because I know that's a big challenge in Hong Kong, trying to find a time that everybody can meet. But we'll see where the more available times are, and then that would allow us to put together some small groups that you would be able to attend. And then one last thing, if you just help us with this, are you interested in joining a small group? Yes, no. And then the next one, if not, why? We'd like to know, not because we want to come and correct you or preach to you, but because we just like to know what are some of the obstacles. I mean, some people would say, well, I'm just too busy. I have to work all the time. Yeah, I know that. Hong Kong, that is a problem. And then the other, would you be willing to host a small group or lead a small group? And if no, why? Well, I'm just chicken. I could not ever speak in front of other people because I would die. I know, that actually is one of that's higher on the list than falling off a building. People are scared of speaking publicly. But this is the very thing with a co-leader, with our coaches, we could help you through to help you to take a big step in life, because that will really help you. So if you can finish filling that out, and on your way back, just drop that into our giving kiosk box, or if you filled it out online, just click send or whatever, and then we'll have that information, let you know what we found out next week as we continue in our series, Better Together, because this is just a good series. Being together is better because we're all growing forward in life when we're together doing it, especially when we just go through a typhoon. It was really fun having all of our kids who live right next to us and our neighbors came. This is something I always seen that's really funny also. I don't ever meet any of our neighbors because they all, the Chinese thing, they just walk down like this, they don't wave, they don't do anything, just, kind of, and I have to sometimes yell or wave, and I'll catch one of them off guard, and they have to wave and smile. But we had another tree out in the front of our house that kind of tipped over this big bougainvillea with all these sharp thorns. I've got lacerations all over my legs trying to tear the thing apart. But all the neighbors came out to help. And I met some of our neighbors for the first time. And I remember that in the last typhoon, that same thing happened. Mangkuk, I didn't know all these neighbors, but right afterwards, all the neighbors are out, and they're friendly and helping each other. And I said, wow, why don't you guys do this all the time? Wouldn't that be fun? Well, anyways, we made some positive steps with the neighbors. And so anyways, because we were together.